Hey, it's Shelby and CJ here. We're walking you through the book of Leviticus, and today we are in chapters 4 through 7. So we started off the book of Leviticus yesterday, and we talked through a couple of different type of offerings.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have more offerings today.
We do.
But I feel like we're still just kind of orienting ourselves to this book. This feels like such a departure from the books that we've covered before. So can you just remind us where we're at, CJ?
Yeah. So again, at the end of Exodus 40, the tabernacle is now up and running. And then beginning in Leviticus, we have to learn, well, how do you use the tabernacle? What's the point? What sort of sacrifices do we offer inside of it? In Leviticus 1 through 3, we describe the 3 voluntary sacrifices, which we are describing as sacrifices marked by gratitude or just worship. And today we get to the final 2 sacrifices. So that's where we're at now.
Okay, great. Yes, I would love for you to explain these final 2 sacrifices. I feel like what we talked about yesterday helped me understand the first 3,
Yeah.
but would love to know about the ones we covered today.
So, a principle that we need to keep in mind is that God's presence is holy and it needs to be treated with care. So, part of that means dealing with sin and impurity. So, the CSB translates the first offering in Leviticus 4 and 5 as a sin offering. And many scholars note that the blood from the offering cleanses or scrubs or purifies the tabernacle to make sure that there's a clean space for God to dwell in. An analogy that I think of is imagine like a white sheet. The tabernacle is like a white sheet, and sin and impurity globs on really easily to that white sheet, just like you would if you were wearing a white shirt or something. It's like everything seems to attach to that white sheet or white shirt. And the sin offering is constantly scrubbing away all of those sins and impurities from that white sheet to create a clean space for God to dwell in. So that's sort of the point of the sin offering. And that function that it purifies or scrubs or cleanses is why some scholars refer to it as a purification offering, because it purifies or it scrubs away all of those sins and impurities. And then we have in Leviticus 5 and 6, the final offering. It's called the guilt offering. And whereas the sin or purification offering would scrub away that sin and impurity, that guilt offering, or what some call a reparation offering, would repair the relationship between worshiper and God. Okay. So these are the functions of the last 2 offerings.
Okay, so I feel like functionally I understand them, but just like we did yesterday, can you bring it into modern day? How do these relate to us as Christians today?
Right. So I think something that Christians and those who were in the world of Leviticus both agree on is that humans are frail and marked by death and sin. That's something that we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And I think here we see God's compassion in providing a means of preserving his presence among us despite our frailty and our death and our sinfulness. And if we sort of understand the function of the purification offering and the function of the reparation offering as preserving God's space, even though we're sinful and gross and icky and do bad things, then all of a sudden I think that's something we can really understand as Christians, because we have that same sort of understanding of our relationship with God.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because we could look at this and think about the death that has to take place in order for this purification to be made. I know I often look at all the requirements for these different offerings, and I think, well, how do they keep everything straight in their head? And it might have been overbearing to do that. But instead, we can look at the fact that, no, this is actually a way to repair the relationship between God's people and God. And without this, there wouldn't be that ability to repair. Yeah. And so I think that's probably my takeaway for today. And I'm even starting to see how this points forward to Christ a little bit, which I'm really excited to get to as we continue to walk through the book of Leviticus.
Good deal.
So we'll be back tomorrow to talk through chapters 8 through 10.